It's time for The Verdict. The Verdict is a lively discussion of current events and legal issues pertinent to Oklahomans. The Verdict is hosted by Kent Myers and Mick Cornett. It's time for The Verdict.
And welcome to The Verdict this Sunday morning. I'm Kent Myers. Mick Cornett is not with us today. He's off doing city business, but will be back with us next Sunday morning. The word bankruptcy is heard a lot, talked around a lot, but let's talk a little bit right now about what does it literally mean. Bankruptcy is the joining of two words, banca and rata, which means the bank is broken. And people who are in need of bankruptcy typically have their personal bank broken. We're going to be talking about bankruptcy today, and it affects you. Whether you're a debtor, whether you're a creditor, whether you're a family member who has a relative or friend that's in financial trouble or getting financial relief, and whether you're just a general member of the citizenry that may have to pick up the excess expenses that are thrown upon the general public because of bankruptcy. We're going to be talking about the changes in the new Bankruptcy Act with someone who knows a lot about it. But before we get to that, let's take a break to hear from our sponsors. You're watching The Verdict. We'll see you in a minute.
Frustrated with high-priced internet providers cleaning you out? They charge over $20 a month for service that should cost half of that. It's time you tried People PC Online. With People PC Online, you get unlimited internet access for only $10.95 a month. Go to peoplepc.com now to try us free for 30 days and compare us with your current ISP. People PC Online has all the features you'd expect from the big ISPs and a few things you might not, like virus blocker software to help protect your computer from harmful email viruses, more local access numbers than AOL, and a smart dialer for faster, more reliable connections, all for just $10.95 a month. No wonder over 500,000 people have switched to People PC Online in the last year. To try us free for 30 days, go to peoplepc.com for a quick download of our easy-to-use software or call 1-800-620-7123. People PC Online, a better way to internet.
Watch the 36th Annual Dove Awards on KSBI TV Sunday, June 12th at 7 p.m. It's 2 hours of entertainment and great music. Brought to you by Diffie Ford Lincoln Mercury on KSBI TV, family television for Oklahoma.
Imagine the beauty and elegance of a custom Lacoste wedding gown designed just for you from the bridal showroom in Oklahoma City. After 30 years of wholesale manufacturing in the bridal industry, the bridal showroom is now open to the public located on North May in Hefner. Each gown is created with a custom fit and designed to meet the needs of the bride, mother, bridesmaids, and plus sizes. A perfect design to make your special day a dream come true at a timely and affordable prices. Come in today to visit with one of our experienced bridal consultants and let us give your wedding party the perfect look.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Listen to Brady's Forecast on 93.3 KKNG.
Welcome back to The Verdict. I'm Kent Myers, sitting in solo. Mick Cornett will be back with us next Sunday. This morning we're going to be talking about bankruptcy, and we're going to be talking about bankruptcy with the person that was my first choice for the guest spot in this show. I want to introduce to my right Janice Lloyd. Janice is a shareholder and chief financial officer of the law firm of Bellingham, Collins, and Lloyd. She has both her Bachelor of Arts degree and JD degree from the University of Oklahoma. She practices in bankruptcy law generally, and interestingly enough, Janice is one of the few lawyers in the community that represents debtors, represents creditors, and is also actually a bankruptcy trustee. So she can wear any of the three possible hats that might need to be worn in a bankruptcy proceeding. She has been the past chairman of the bankruptcy section of the Oklahoma Bar Association, is widely known in the Southwest and beyond as an expert in bankruptcy, although she would dare not call herself that, but she is. And she's here to talk to us today on her first visit to the verdict. Janice, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
Well, we're pleased you're here. Tell our viewers what is bankruptcy generally?
Well, most people don't realize that bankruptcy is a constitutional right. The United States Constitution has prescribed that individuals should have a place to go to get rid of debts that they can't pay. It was developed by our founding fathers who were trying to escape the notion of a debtor's prison. We didn't want to throw people in jail. We didn't want people to become burdens on society by not being able to pay their debt. So we gave them a safe harbor, and in the United States Constitution, we gave them that right.
And we left the founding fathers left it up to the Congress to determine how that was to work.
That's correct.
Well, I don't think it's widely known that bankruptcy has its origins in the U.S. Constitution, but it's as old as the country itself.
That's exactly right.
What generally are the two types of relief that a debtor can get if they choose to file bankruptcy, or if a bankruptcy is filed against them?
There are two different types of relief that are given to debtors in bankruptcy. One is to wash away your debts. You file bankruptcy and you simply walk away from certain debts that you just can't afford to pay.
Now, if you do that, what happens to your property?
The law prescribes there's certain types of property that people need for basic living expenses, basic living needs, homes, clothing, food, transportation, things of those nature. So those are what we call exempt assets, and each state has a listing of what property individuals can keep in bankruptcy.
But if they take the liquidation route or the wash away the debt route, anything that's not exempt, they'll lose, will they not?
That's correct. That's correct.
Now
if it's a non-exempt asset, they have to give that asset over to a bankruptcy trustee in order to get a complete liquidation of their assets and then walk away from the debts that they owe.
And then what's the other type of
The
relief?
other type is a restructuring of your debt, where you're in bankruptcy for a certain period of time, a lengthier period of time, where you're actually paying money in over a period of time and paying your creditors, but on a plan that you have devised indicating how much money you can pay.
And approximately how long can that take to get that completed?
A typical restructure is a minimum of 3 years and a maximum of 5 years.
Now, let's go back to our property discussion as we had about a wipeout where you lose all your non-exempt property. What happens to your non-exempt property in a restructure?
You have to, in your plan, calculate how much that non-exempt property is worth and then pay into the plan a like amount of money in order to be able to keep that property. If you don't pay in enough money, then that property will be taken over by the bankruptcy and liquidated, and those funds will then be used to pay your creditors as well.
We have, I'm told from talking to you before we began, from anywhere 10 to 12,000 families a year in this jurisdiction, the central western part of Oklahoma, that file a bankruptcy petition of some sort. That I didn't realize it was quite that high, but this new Bankruptcy Act, which Congress just passed and the President has signed, will affect those families.
It sure will.
Tell us generally who benefits under this new act that's been filed.
Well, the major impact that we're going to see for individuals going to file bankruptcy under the new act is some educational requirements. Debtors are now going to have to take an education course on financial management. They have to learn how to manage their money before they can even file bankruptcy. That's one of the biggest changes. They get certified that they've completed the course, then they're entitled to file bankruptcy, and while they're in bankruptcy, they have to take a second educational course to show that they actually have learned something in terms of going forward with their financial picture. The biggest benefit that we see with the Bankruptcy Act as it sits today is that creditors are probably going to, I messed up.
That's all right.
Can I start over? Okay. Who's going to benefit the most? Probably creditors are going to benefit the most under this new Bankruptcy Act. There's not going to be as many time restrictions on creditors. The debtors are going to have to go through the system a lot faster. There's an expedited process for getting plans confirmed in bankruptcy. The debtors used to be able to do what we call a cram down, where we played with the amount of money that we actually owed secured creditors on value of property. That's been done away with.
So creditors will generally get more money and presumably faster.
That's right. That's the basic thought behind the new act.
Well, just as kind of a final thought for this segment, what is the debtor's goal in bankruptcy, whether it be liquidation or reorganization or restructure? What is the debtor hoping to achieve?
Well, the benefit of a bankruptcy from an individual standpoint is what we call a discharge of debt. And that is the removal of your legal obligation to repay your debt. It washes away your obligation to repay, and also then removes the creditor's ability to sue you, to garnish you, to bring you into court and take anything in order to repay the debt. So the ultimate goal and the ultimate benefit that individuals receive in bankruptcy is the discharge.
This act is titled bankruptcy, in part, Bankruptcy Abuse Prevention. Was there abuse prior to the effective date of this act? Well,
there's no coincidence that the title says abuse, because I think the general theory in Congress is that there was a significant amount of abuse.
Abuse by debtors or creditors?
By debtors, yeah. Primarily because of the incredible rise in bankruptcy that we've seen over the years. The bankruptcy code that we have now has been in existence since 1978. So for approximately 27 and a half years, we have seen a steady rise in the number of bankruptcies filed. And more importantly than that, we've seen a steady rise in repeat filers, individuals who are filing bankruptcy every 6 years.
Serial filers.
Exactly. Or on the other side of the restructuring side of bankruptcy, people will file bankruptcy but not really have everything it needs to confirm a plan, so they dismiss and refile, dismiss and refile, dismiss and refile. And every time a bankruptcy is filed, we have what's called an automatic stay that takes effect. That automatic stay prevents your creditors from coming in and trying to do anything to you or your property while you're in bankruptcy.
Okay, let me interrupt just to say we have an automatic stay on this program that's called running our commercials, so that we can continue to be on the air. Let's take just a brief break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about that. You're visiting with Janice Lloyd, bankruptcy lawyer, about the new Bankruptcy Act. See you in a minute.
Heritage Hall, an independent college preparatory school. Here we celebrate our scientists, our athletes, our mathematicians, and our future artists.
Our students love to learn. A welcoming school for children aged 3 through grade 12. We are a community. We are a family. We are Heritage Hall.
Why are these doctors different? Because their knowledge is what powerful minds are made of. Minds of specialists making us feel like ourselves again. As if all the pieces of us are a mystery only they can solve. Minds of scholars and scientists who are teaching tomorrow's doctors. Because they are 400 powerful minds with one thing on their mind. You, their OU physicians. That's powerful medicine.
KSBI TV congratulates Becky Barlow of Bethany, Oklahoma, the winner in our spectacular wedding sweepstakes. Becky has won more than $18,000 worth of prizes, including the rings, the honeymoon, the wedding gown, catering, and so much more. Keep watching KSBI TV for family-friendly programming and chances to win more great prizes.
We're going to have a spectacular wedding.
Thank you, KSBI.
Injury victims. If you or a loved one has been injured as a result of a motor vehicle accident, a slip and fall, or because of a doctor, hospital, or nursing home mistake, call the law offices of Friedman & Associates at 1-800-516-4181. That's 1-800-516-4181. Again, if you or a loved one has been injured as a result of a motor vehicle accident, a slip and fall, or because of a doctor, hospital, or nursing home mistake, call 1-800-516-4181. That's 1-800-516-4181. Big insurance companies have lawyers fighting for them, protecting their interests. Our lawyers will fight for you to get the money you deserve, the money the law entitles you to. There are deadlines for bringing injury claims. Call now to protect your legal rights. Call 1-800-516-4181. That's 1-800-516-4181. The call is free. There are no legal fees unless you get money. Call the law offices of Friedman & Associates at 1-800-516-4181. 1-800-516-4181.
And welcome back to The Verdict. I'm Kent Myers, and this morning we are visiting with Janice Lloyd, a recognized bankruptcy practitioner and expert in the area, talking about the new Bankruptcy Act, which was recently signed by the President and will become effective October, or most of it become effective October 31st, 2000.
October 17th.
October 17th, 2005. Janice, when we took a break, we were talking a little bit about the families that will be affected by this. You had mentioned that there were 10,000 to 12,000 families each year that will be affected in this jurisdiction by the changes. What kind of restrictions on income have been implemented to stop someone from just wiping out their debts in liquidation?
Well, the first thing that most people need to recognize is the new act doesn't prevent you from filing bankruptcy. The new act is just going to dictate which bankruptcy you're entitled to file.
Either a wipeout or a reorganization or restructure.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. And what we're going to do is calculate your income and compare it to what the average income in your state is. If your income is below the average medium income level for your state, then we're going to allow you to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy
That means
proceeding,
liquidation.
which is the liquidation. That's correct.
Now, your income, is that the household income?
It's the household income, not just the filer, but all of the income derived in that household will be calculated to determine whether or not it is below the medium income level for your state.
Now, do the expenses of the family have anything to do with it?
Absolutely. Once we determine whether or not where your income level is, if it's above the medium income level, then we're going to look at your expenses and determine whether or not you have any money left over after certain expenses are deducted.
And if you do, like more than $100?
If you have more than $100, then you're going to be required to file a restructuring bankruptcy and be in bankruptcy for a period of 5 years, repaying your creditors.
And now that's going to result, I would think, in a lot more people taking the restructure route, not because they necessarily want to, but because they have to.
Well, you would think so, but quite frankly, it's been my experience and my review of the bankruptcies that we have here in Oklahoma that probably 75% of the filers that we have fall below the medium income level for the state of Oklahoma. So even though there is a panic right now for people filing bankruptcy, we have speculated that this new statute will really only affect about 25% of the filers who will then have to go into a restructuring plan.
So most of the 75% will be able to just operate as before.
To a certain extent,
Yeah.
with some changes.
Yeah.
With some changes.
This act was sponsored by credit card companies and banks, and sometimes consumers can be rightfully wary of that. It can be asked, and I'd be interested in your thought about it, why shouldn't the banks and credit card companies just tighten up granting of credit at the beginning rather than tightening up getting out of the improvidently granted credit at the end.
I think that's what most consumer advocates are asking right now. Every day you go home, you have 10, 15 mailers in your mailbox for credit card applications. The lending institutions are making credit so easy to get that I think that this Bankruptcy Act is more a reflection of what the perception that consumers are to blame for this problem, when in fact I think the lending institutions are just as much to blame, but nothing's been done on that side.
The Congress, at least the majority of the Congress, this bill was fought over quite a number of years.
It's been pending approximately 8 years.
Yeah. The majority of Congress felt like it was time to make these changes, I take it.
When the Republicans took control, that's when the law was put through.
This act will affect the people who practice bankruptcy law like yourself, but you wear all three hats, debtor, creditor, and trustee. Do you see this law having any effect on the lawyers that practice bankruptcy law, principally for representing debtors?
I think so. What we think at this point is that some lawyers are just simply not going to practice bankruptcy law anymore. There is some burdens that have been placed on the lawyers to ensure that the information that's put in the documents that are filed with the court are true and accurate. Lawyers are going to have to certify that the information is true and accurate. Some lawyers are probably not going to want to do that.
And if they're incorrect in their certification, can they be personally liable?
They can be held personally liable for mistakes that are found in the documents themselves, particularly if a case is dismissed for abuse.
And the cheering you hear in the background is from our viewers saying, aha, that's what ought to happen to those bankruptcy lawyers that do that sort of thing. How will this affect the lawyers that represent creditors?
We're not quite sure at this point because there's so many aspects of the bankruptcy law that makes things a lot easier for creditors. So creditors might not have to hire lawyers as often in order to accomplish certain things.
So there may be fewer of those.
There may be fewer aspects there.
Now, you're a trustee, and you might just in a couple of sentences tell our viewers what you as a trustee in a bankruptcy case, what kind of duties do you carry out?
My job is to make sure that the filings have been done accurately. So my job will increase because there's going to be more background investigation to make sure that all of the information in the schedules are accurate. And then also work on the calculations for income levels, expense levels, things like that. So our job is going to increase by the amount of investigation we're going to have to do.
Now, as a trustee, you aren't necessarily, well, I guess you are in a sense representing the debtor and also representing the creditor. You're trying to make sure that the case comes out in a balanced, fair, correct manner.
That's correct. That's correct.
Are there many panel trustees here in the Western District?
We have 13.
Okay. Has there been, I saw writings that would indicate that the passage of this act would result in the floodgate of filings opening in order to try to come in under the old law before the October deadline hits. Has that occurred? Are we seeing more filings here now?
Absolutely. When the law was announced and President Bush signed it into law on April 20th, everybody was told at that point that the effective date was October 17th, so you had approximately 6 months under the bankruptcy code as we know today. We have seen, at least last month, a 25% increase in filings.
Last month versus a year ago, the same month.
That's correct. That's correct.
25%.
25% increase, and we actually expect that to continue to rise.
Take a look into our crystal ball here on the table and put your prognosticator's hat on and tell our viewers what you think is likely to be the long-term impact of this law on everyone.
Quite frankly, I think part of the panic that most people are feeling right now is that this is a big change. This is the most sweeping change to bankruptcy law that we've seen in 28 years. And a lot of people are really hesitant to go forward because they're afraid of change. Once we start practicing this law and once interpretation begins, Once we start utilizing it, I think we're going to end up with the same amount of bankruptcies probably down the road. It's just going to take some time to learn something new.
So the system's it's not going to go away, it's just going to change a little bit.
It's just going to change a little bit.
Janice, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you joining us. We're out of time. We've been visiting with Janice Lloyd, a bankruptcy trustee, debtor and creditor lawyer on the new Bankruptcy Act. We thank her for coming. We will see you back in just a minute.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
American Express Tax and Business Services. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. American Express Tax and Business Services. In Oklahoma City, the phone number is 405-843-5311.
The average American has 14 credit cards, a balance due of over $7,000, pays $83 a month in interest alone.
I'm Kevin Martin for H&R Block Mortgage. Call us today to get control over credit card and other debt. With mortgage interest rates as low as they've been in years, it makes perfect sense to refinance now. H&R Block Mortgage makes it simple. Call for a free custom mortgage analysis. You can consolidate all your debt, lower your monthly payments, get a bigger tax break, and even put cash in your pocket.
H&R Block Mortgage.
They customized it for me.
Call 800-693-3217 for your free, no-obligation custom analysis and regain control over debt.
It's one simple phone call.
Call 800-693-3217. H&R Block Mortgage. Just plain smart.
Welcome back to The Verdict. I'm Kent Myers. We appreciate Janice Lloyd very much coming to see us this morning and visiting with us about the Bankruptcy Act. We hope that our business owners, executives, and consumers in our audience enjoyed hearing what she had to say and got a little insight into what kind of changes will be made in the coming months and years insofar as bankruptcy is concerned. On a very different note, next Sunday we're going to have an exciting show. The participants won't let me call it a debate, but it certainly will be a lively discussion on the public display of the Ten Commandments. That's a decision that's it's before the United States Supreme Court and should be coming out within the next 30 to 40 days. But before that happens, we're going to have two professors of constitutional law who have very different views about how the Ten Commandments should be displayed. Join us and discuss that with you. Mick will be here. We will pepper them with fair but friendly and we hope insightful questions. And we know the answers that they will give will be useful to you in making up your own mind on how the Ten Commandments ought to be displayed, what is appropriate under the Constitution. If you have an idea for a show, check our website, theverdict.tv. Let us know what you'd like to see. Thank you for joining us this Sunday. We will see you next Sunday on The Verdict.